Hi, it's Wyndham. I read an excerpt from a survey, a statistic from a survey recently, a Gallup survey surveying the UK workforce. And this statistic said that 90% of the UK workforce feel disengaged to some degree. 90%. Now that seems a lot, but if we put that into actual human beings, how many is that? I had to write this down because memory for numbers is terrible. Up to July 2023, there were 32.8 million people employed in the UK. 90% of them, according to the survey, to some degree disengaged with work. That is 29.5 million people in the UK with a population of 65 million-ish, feeling disengaged to some degree at work. And that number seems like a huge amount, right? 90%, 9 out of 10, 29.5 million people feel disengaged at work. And then I started thinking about this because the idea of disengagement, I think, is at the centre of a lot of the emotions and feelings we have, not just in work, but in our relationships, in our friendships, in all areas of our life. We seem to be moving towards greater disengagement. And so when we look at this statistic, 90% of the UK workforce are disengaged, I think we're looking at the wrong bit, or at least I certainly was to begin with. I was looking at the 90%. But actually, in order for us to get a sense of whether that seems accurate or not, I think we should be looking at the disengaged bit. Because what is causing our disengagement? And it's something I've been working on personally for myself for best part of a decade. It's something I work on with my clients. I have some incredible conversations with my clients that just offer these insights that are really building a picture that we are more the same than we are different. And specifically about this disengagement. I think disengagement is a symptom. It's just what happens as a result of something else. So the real question is not what do we do about disengagement? The question is what's causing our disengagement? Because this survey was about work, but it is across every aspect of our lives. It's incredibly easy to become disengaged. And when we become disengaged, motivation becomes much harder to come by. We struggle to find the energy required to maintain the relationship, whether it's at work or at home or with our friends or in any instance. It becomes much harder to muster the energy required to maintain those relationships. And at its very heart, disengagement is simply the result of some deeper needs not being met. Now, what are those needs? You would have to tell me. I don't know what they are for you. But there's two really important things I think it's necessary for us to consider. Firstly, how do we go looking for them? So, initially, if you look at any of my blueprint theory, the 3 phases of our blueprint, phase 1 being from when we're born to when we kind of gain autonomy in our lives, and then the second one when we join the workforce until we start addressing all of these challenges. In phase 1, we are constantly having to adjust to the inclusion criteria we are being exposed to. Now, those are the things, the behaviours, the thoughts, the expectations of us and of the world around us that we are exposed to from other people. And as we adjust our behaviours, some of which we can control and some of which, we're hardwired for. But as we start adjusting and compromising slightly who we are, that starts building a barrier between our deepest self, our authentic true self, and how we are showing up in the world. And at that point, we have to do it. We're too young. We're not aware of what is happening. And realistically, we don't have a choice. We are dependent on the people who look after us. We are dependent when we go to school on trying to find some level of safety in an environment that is fraught with conflicting thoughts and actions and expectations on us. So we go through the first part of our life, phase 1, adapting our behaviours to remain included and try to be safe. Phase 2, we go into the work, we pick a career. Right? Most of us, we make a decision out of university or out of education, and we're broadly stuck with that, or we feel stuck with that. So at the age of potentially 18, potentially 21, 25, whatever it might be, but by the time we get to our mid-20s, we are in whatever we're in. And it's really important to recognise that the things you needed, the things you were looking for, the motivations you had, the objectives you had when you were 25 are going to be different now you're 10 years older, 20 years older, 30 years older. So we spend some time pursuing what we think we want, right? We spend those early few years of our career having already adapted our behaviours and our expectations and how we think, having been formed in our home environment, in our school environment, in those early social environments, then shaped again with a very prescriptive, narrow definition of what success looks like in whatever career you've fallen into. All pursuing what we think we want, these needs we think we have, the desires we have, the objectives we are trying to achieve. And when I say think we have, I'm not belittling those things. I am simply saying it is really important we recognise that at the point we go into our careers and we start setting these objectives and we start pursuing the things we think we want, that's a snapshot in time. So when we get to mid-career, for me it was around about 40 that I was like, God, I cannot do this anymore. It is really valuable to recognise, well, why would I want to keep doing it this way? Because when I was 40, I was living with the consequences of decisions I made in my early 20s. And in my early 20s, I'd just come out of university and it was like, oh my God, I need a job. Well, I did a drama and theatre degree. That doesn't particularly set you up for a career. It's not like doing medicine or law or accounting or something like that. There's this open field that's like, oh, well, if I want to be an actor, that's a slot. I didn't. So I had to find something else. And I fell into sales. So when I fell into sales, I was in my early 20s. I needed a job. I needed to pay my bills. My expectations and demands and needs were significantly less than they are now. I just wanted to be out in the workforce, earning a bit of money. I didn't have any obligations, so as long as I could pay the rent, not always something that was easy, and had money to go out drinking with my mates, I was pretty much set. I'm 48 in a few weeks. So there's more than 25 years distance between the decisions I made in my early mid-20s to today. And so the dissonance, that discomfort, that disengagement, the distance we start feeling from our work or relationships is because we are not recognizing and giving space for our deeper needs, those needs that we masked, those behaviors that we changed those unique idiosyncrasies that make us us, that weren't acceptable to the people setting the inclusion criteria when we were younger. I've mixed the messaging a little bit, so I just want to clarify. There are two things to consider. One, what are those deeper, core, original, authentic needs that you as a human being have, but have not felt able to air, to live, to pursue? What are those deeper needs you have that for any number of reasons, societally and personally and socially and all those influences and pressures on us, have been condensed down and hidden away and had a little box put round them and placed in the back corner? Because we were afraid we'd be rejected, because our old brain was telling us our safety was at risk. What are those things? Because they do not go away. They just don't. And when we live our lives in an inauthentic manner, that stuff bubbles up eventually. It just does. And being in a position to recognise, I'm feeling this disengagement. Let me go and have a look at what is causing it. Because there's nothing wrong with you. This is just a natural human reaction to having a core part of you suppressed for so long. So that's number one. We can feel disengaged from something when the weight of our pretense of being something we're not gets too heavy, and the real us, the original, the core, the authentic us starts to make itself known, and the fact that it needs some air, it needs some light. The second one is the age gap. As I said, I was in my early 20s when I fell into a career where my motivations were, I don't want to be jobless. I don't want to be homeless. I want to have enough money to go out drinking with my mates. 25 years later, unsurprisingly, my focus, my attention, my desires, my needs have changed. And to ignore that fact, it's like, why are we not allowed to change? And there is a sense in, social media, on the internet, in all manner of life, that to change your opinion somehow makes you flaky or weak or whatever it might be. Whereas actually, changing our opinion is simply, if we're open to it, then we can take on board our lived experience as it changes, as it evolves, as we expose ourselves to different things. And we can reflect on the things we think we believe in relation to our lived experience. And when those things don't marry up, it's time to update our old beliefs. So giving yourself the space to acknowledge, okay, I feel disengaged from this person, from this job, from this friendship group, from whatever it might be. There is nothing wrong with you. There is simply, I almost loathe using that word now, but there is simply a deeper need of yours that is not being met. And most likely, it's not even being acknowledged. That discomfort that we feel emotionally, spiritually, physiologically, is an unavoidable part of disengagement. There's this dissonance going on inside us. The discomfort of seeking to address those challenges is unavoidable. So we're in a situation where we feel terrible as we are. It's going to be painful and challenging, and there are moments when we will feel terrible when we are doing something about it. The discomfort is guaranteed. What that discomfort is in service to is a choice. At the moment, perhaps you're sat there Sunday night thinking, Monday morning dread. Do not want to go to work. I hate it. Something is not right. That's not going to go away. Just isn't. Reflect back. How long have you felt any level of dread about Monday morning on the Sunday? There'll be times when it's less, of course. But fundamentally, it doesn't go away because there's something deeper at play. We resist change because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. One of the many reasons we resist change. But that uncertainty, the discomfort of uncertainty, keeps us where we are, very often in a place of discomfort. So the choice is ours. Let's just accept it's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. But what we put that discomfort in service to is down to us. I leave you with that. I wish you a peaceful and joyful few days, and I will speak to you soon.